This is the Town of Mount Airy Monthly Planning Commission meeting, and our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to thank those that are coming to visit us here tonight on a rather dreary week and dreary evening. And again, especially thank those that are taking time at their homes to follow us on the live stream. Our first order of business is the approval of the past monthly meeting minutes that were on August 26th. Each commissioner has a copy of the minutes prepared by the town staff. I'll pause while you look over those minutes and any notes you may have made prior to this evening. And at this time, I'll ask for a motion whether to accept or refuse the minutes from the August 26th meeting. Is there a motion?
Also move.
Commissioner Butts moves to accept the minutes from the August 26th meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Bynack. Is there any discussion, edits, or amendments on the minutes before you? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion to approve the minutes of August 26th meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion is passed unanimously. Thank you. Our next order of business is, as always, an opportunity for any citizen attending here tonight to make public comments that are on topics not on the agenda. So again, for topics that are not on the agenda, we welcome anyone who wishes to come forward and speak, roughly a 2-minute time period, if I may. For those so interested, if you could raise your hand in the audience here. Seeing none, there is no public comment or citizen comment. I close that part of the agenda this evening and move now to the Carroll and Frederick County Planner reports. We'll begin with the Carroll County Planner, Ms. Hannah Weber. Welcome, Hannah.
Good evening, everybody. Just some updates from Carroll County. Kind of closing up, we are expecting a draft of our housing study sometime in October. We will also be taking it to our Planning Commission to discuss their findings and recommendations. But I'll make sure that I send John and Deb a copy of the study to send out to you all when we do get the draft. We are currently processing 3 different zoning text amendments. One for Housing Bill 538. We've talked about that a lot with your master plan. We are going to the commissioners on October 17th to kind of get their next steps and thoughts on the amendment that Planning Commission came up with. And then the other text amendment is solar site design. We went to the commissioners this past Thursday and they requested a work session with staff to kind of go through the text amendment on a deeper level. That work session is scheduled on October 10th. And then the last text amendment that we're working through is DRRAs, the Development Rights and Responsibility Agreements. The commissioners held a public hearing this past Thursday. They voted to keep the record open for 10 days, and we'll be bringing that back to them for more deliberation and their approval or denial of the text amendment. And then lastly, with the county master plan, we are currently looking for any public outreach events. So if there's any events going on in Mount Airy that you think that we could set up shop at for an hour or two, that would be great if you could reach out with any information. And then we are expecting to launch the website for our master plan sometime in October.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Hannah. Any commissioner questions for Ms. Weber for Carroll County? I have a couple.
Yeah.
The amendments as a consequence of 538, those would obviously be focused on your current zoning regarding residential.
Correct. Yeah, so the bill implicates more than the residential districts with our code. It also implicates the commercial industrial districts and the ag and conservation districts. If I can talk about it more,
Yeah, that's kind of intriguing because manufactured homes and such in the bill and the density credits all speak to dwelling units. So that's why I asked the question.
yeah. So for the qualified projects, there's like 3 different types of qualified projects that all fall under the nonprofit qualified project.
Okay.
So depending on what zoning district, the underlying zoning district, that equates to what density bonus you get. So if you're in a residential district, then you qualify for like middle housing units. If you're in the commercial or industrial districts, then you can qualify for mixed use development. And then for ag and conservation, we also have to allow manufactured homes because we allow single family dwellings there.
Okay.
Not sure.
But did I hear, and I know I'm shredding this out, but did I hear that the amendment will allow dwelling units to exist on industrial zones districts?
No.
No,
Mixed use. Well, I guess, yeah, mixed use.
Mixed
For
use.
industrial, yeah.
Clearly, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thanks so much, Hannah. We also are honored tonight to introduce our new Frederick County Planner Liaison, Miss Vanessa Moreno, from the Frederick County Planning Office. Vanessa, a big welcome from all of us and the town for joining us. So,
Thank you, everyone. Well, let me get my document up. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Vanessa Moreno. Thank you for welcoming me to my first ever Mount Airy Planning Commission meeting. Before coming over to Long Range Planning, I was with Frederick County's Development Review Department, and I recently made the transition about a month ago. So still kind of getting the flow of things down and learning as much as I can. So hopefully I'll be able to answer all your questions tonight. I got my master's recently from the University of Colorado and moved back to Frederick last year. And I look forward to working with you all and being part of the invaluable work you all are doing for Mountain Airy's community. So let's get to it. Let's see. I'm sure, as you all know, in a unanimous vote, Frederick County Council approved a letter in opposition to the MPRP project. The county executive has scheduled a community meeting for the project on October 9th at 6 p.m. to be held at Oakdale's Auditorium. More information can be found on the county's website for that. And a few updates on a couple of the developments in and around Mount Airy. I'm sure you all are also familiar with the Cromwell and the clubhouse as well. So I won't go into too much detail, but the developers are currently working on their improvement plans from what I've heard, and construction is expected to begin very soon. The Alpine, located alongside Eaglehead Drive, the project was conditionally approved with a few minor revisions by the Planning Commission, such as lighting, bike spaces, and minor alterations such as that. And then lastly, we have the Cherry Run development. The application includes the proposed subdivision of 5 parcels located off Green Valley Road and Krickenberger Road, more specifically located next to Gordon Mills, to include a total of 829 units, and with a breakdown of 619 single-family detached units, 46 neo-traditional units, and 164 single-family attached units. Per the DRA, the applicant will be required to provide a school site and are currently working with FCPS on the matter. It's currently in its second review cycle, and so talking with the development review planners, they are expecting to see it head to the Planning Commission's desk in either November or December. And lastly, we have a new transmission line update that has come to our desk recently. Potomac Edison is proposing a 12.7-mile transmission line replacement project to begin from Carroll County substation outside of Union Bridge to the Mount Airy substation. The project will address equipment, material, conditions, and performance and risk issues associated with the line and within its 130 feet wide right-of-way. Our only questions at this time that we've asked Potomac Edison would be if there are any environmental reviews at the moment, or if they're prepared and submitted as part of the application. DNR is currently in the preliminary planning stages, and they're working right now to pull together all these resources, and they will provide more information at a later date, they have told us.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Do the commissioners have any questions for Ms. Moreno?
You want to?
No, go ahead.
Okay,
Martina?
thank you. Did you say a number for you mentioned Alpine by Eagle Hill Drive?
Yes.
Was there a housing number on that?
We're looking at 83 single-family detached residential units.
Okay, and then for the second, what was it, Cherry Run?
Yes.
Okay, so the first one was 619 single-family?
Yes, altogether 829, but
Okay.
619 single-family detached units.
Okay, and then there was 46, and I'm sorry, I didn't catch
Neo-traditional
neo-traditional. What does
units.
that mean?
So it kind of looks to blend more nostalgic architectural elements with more modern materials. So you'll see a lot of like the porches and kind of the replications of like the brick facades and such to give it more of a contemporary feel as
Okay.
well.
Thank you.
Brian?
Potomac Edison's project, are they gonna upgrade their existing
Yes,
infrastructure?
yes,
Okay, so
existing,
not
yeah.
adding to it, and you mentioned something in the beginning about the transmission line, the big project.
Yes.
You said something about a vote that Frederick did with that, is that?
Oh, yes, the county council approved to submit a letter of opposition to the project.
Okay.
And they have submitted that recently.
Okay.
Commissioner Butts?
Okay. It wasn't that long ago that we were told that we were adjacent, being in Mount Airy, to Frederick County, to the fastest growing community in the state. Okay, I'm wondering, are you still in that position in terms of the speed with which you are growing, either as a county or as a large-sized community? And then, very similar to that, we were also told that the majority or the greatest amount of the growth was occurring in the southeast quadrant of the county, which is adjacent to Mount Airy. And so that concerns us to some extent in terms of the pressure that puts in transportation and so forth and so on. So
yeah.
if you're able to comment on that, or if you would, look into that and come back and share with us.
Yeah, I'd be happy to look
Very
into that.
useful.
For sure, give you a more succinct answer. I'm still kind of catching up to speed here, so, yeah.
Understood.
And Bill, if I can just kind of trail off on that, in the meet and greet with Ms. Moreno, I believe you shared, and correct me if I'm wrong, Vanessa, that there was in the out years, 2020, 2030, I think it is, there are some designs on, including within the Frederick County Capital Improvement Program, some public facility growth in the New Market area, specifically a library.
Yeah, the library and a senior center has been included in Frederick County CIP project for 2025 to 2030.
Gotcha.
So we're still looking at a much later time when these would be completed, but it's in the books for now.
Yeah, and I mention that because we have a Commission on Aging and Livability that's keen on the senior and community center growth or improvements here within our side of the town. And so whatever, is similar to that just across into Frederick County is going to help the demand and
Absolutely.
and those discussions. Because I think it's fair, correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, that we're really trying to get rid of the line geographically and think more regionally for these services, so that we can kind of think New Market and Mount Airy demand from the aging community.
absolutely.
That sort of thing. So excellent, and that's a topic we're keen on, so.
Great.
And an example of that is half of our population of Mount Airy essentially is in Frederick County and half is in Carroll.
Gotcha.
Any other questions for Ms. Moreno? again, a big welcome, and
you.
I don't think we were too tough. We're
No, actually, this is pretty easy peasy.
all right.
Thank you very
Well, thanks
much.
so much. With that, we'll move to our agenda item now that is an introduction and discussion of the McDonald's modifications and building permit discussion. This is the Town of Mount Airy McDonald's located off of Ridgeside Drive. The applicant has submitted to the Town Director of Zoning, Mr. Breeding, a set of modifications to the existing exterior and to some extent interior of that particular parcel's business. And so we're here tonight because, and I'm trying to guide the commissioners here, we are here to discuss whether or not we are at the level of allowing the Director of Zoning to go ahead and begin issuing construction permits, or if those modifications rise to the level where you as a commissioner prefer to have an amended site plan submitted. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the modifications are shown in the material provided by the town, and I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, I think the focus of our deliberation on the topic I introduced is more associated with the exterior, not so much what they're going to do inside. But if I could just steer us again into the specifics of the exterior and its level of impact in change, and then let's just get to a discussion where we can say it's okay for us to go ahead and give direction to John to go ahead and begin the construction permit issuance, or we could do a conditional motion along those lines. So I'm just trying to tee this topic up here because John and I talked about those changes could be interpreted by some commissioners, and so on the side of caution, we have it before us to kind of take a look at it ourselves, okay? My last comment, I did look at the code with respect to site plans. And the site plans are specific as to when amended site plans have to be submitted to the town, and it has to do with the amount of square foot of impervious surface disturbance that may occur in the modifications. To some extent, the amount of landscaping that's going to be proposed in the plan, and those sorts of things. So I have that code ready in case we need to reference it as far as, again, meeting that mark where an amended site plan or not is part of our decision tonight. So with that, as I always do, I'll lead off with John giving us the background. And while John talks, if the applicant's representative is here, we welcome you to come forward. After John is done, I'll ask, sir, that you introduce yourself. And then I'll give you some time to talk or add to what John's going to share with us. So your mic, John.
Thank you, Ralph. Again, this is the modifications to the McDonald's here in Mount Airy. Ultimately, McDonald's went through an overview or a redo back in 1986. Or no, that was when it was originally built. They've done an exterior upgrade, I think it was 20 years ago or so. But they've come in asking for modification to the exterior of the building. If you can look up on the projector, you'll see right here is what the biggest modification to the entrance and drive-through. They're creating a third window, which would allow for somebody to stage themselves at this window to allow for a bypass to get by if say they're waiting for a pickup for an item, instead of having them pull over to one of the two stationary pickup areas. This will allow them to internally get the food to this third driver and still allow the second window to go past. Again, the disturbance is under, I think, 5,000 square feet, just under 5,000 exteriorly, and that's including the handicap entrance over here and down to the sidewalks. They are removing an existing tree and relocating it to this new location here. Again, they're making additional island here as well to protect pedestrians that are walking across the parking lot to come into the new entrance.
The entrance currently comes in right at the corner here. They are moving the entrance down. And, excuse me, they are losing 5 parking spaces that are currently here, but the site still meets the code requirements for spaces needed for the size of the building. I will mention that I think this is actually a much safer application for even the workers. Before, the workers used to have to come into this motorized lane, where now they potentially could be putting pavers out here to allow them to come out the front door and deliver the food to these 2 people as well, which I think is a much better idea than what they're currently doing. And so the major amount of work is going to be interiorly, on the interior. They're basically redoing the whole interior of the building, from the kitchen to the freezers to the bathrooms. Basically, it's a total gut on the inside of the whole building, which is a major amount of work. I think they're supposed to be closed for 4 or 5 weeks, possibly 6 weeks maybe. So that'll be an impact to the community too, because it does get patronized a fair amount. And but overall, I think it's an applicant for possibly going to building permit process, unless Ralph found something that I didn't find in the code. But I'll move to the elevations. I need to change our scale here a little bit. This, of course, is the existing drive-through as it is. You can kind of see how narrow it is. And, again, this existing tree here is to be removed as well, because that entrance currently is right here. Now that's going to be extended out to this front edge. And then the new entrance will be over here. There'll be a beverage center that's for the interior workers. And again, so this is, I think, a great design. I mean, ultimately, we'd like to have a complete bypass lane, but then that would impact parking drastically. And I don't know if that's really something that's worth trying to shoot for. Let me get to the elevations. Let me reduce the scale here a little bit. 1 second. One second here. So again, this is the demolition work. So I think they're redoing the whole interior play area as well. So this is some work that'll be associated to that. Again, this is where the new entrance is going. I can't see my cursor for some reason, so give me 1 second here. Again, this is all what's being demolitioned as well on the exterior that's towards the entrance.
So this elevation, if I may.
Yeah, please.
So this elevation, and I'm sorry, by the way, thank you very much for having me. Norbert Ackes.
Norbert, can you pull the mic towards you? It's very critical so people can hear you.
Norbert Ackes, construction manager for McDonald's. So this elevation right here that you're looking at is as if you're standing at that, right in front of that, the 5 spaces that's proposed to be removed, and you're looking inside. As you can see, this is the drive-through lane, pay window, pickup window, and that subsequent third window.
We don't have any color elevations at this time. But I did talk to Norbert about possibly making sure all the exterior wood and anything on the outside that needs to be sort of freshened up will be part of that building permit process as well.
The hard surfaces right now, we are matching existing, and yes, to answer your question, we are freshening up on all the paintable surfaces.
Awesome. Because I noticed a lot of this wooden trim work around the bottom here is in need of painting. So again, this would be the new elevation that you'd be looking at from those 5 parking spaces. This is the new pickup window that'll be installed, the new coping that'll match the existing, the facade will match the existing, and the brickwork will match the existing as well.
Just to And just to, if I may again, just to kind of level set on expectations, obviously it's brick, this is going to be new. And the thought here is to obviously power wash, refresh the brick as much as possible to try to get it to a place where the existing matches the new as much as possible. But the great thing here is that we have that delineator that kind of takes your eyes from one spot to the other instead of looking at it as one complete piece.
Excellent.
Is it going to be gray and like the other McDonald's are? They look like banks now? They're not like.
No. If we had removed the, and that's a great question, by the way. If we had removed the mansard roof, then I would say yes. But we know that we're trying to be good neighbors as far as matching what you guys are used to. So the existing color right now, we are going to match it to the greatest extent possible.
Okay. Will you have a Ronald McDonald inside the play area?
Brian,
There is no play area.
Brian, can you pull your mic closer to you? I received a text from somebody that
Is
couldn't hear
Ronald
you.
McDonald going to be part of the play area?
I
You figure you're gonna
cannot,
redo the play area?
I can't deny or confirm
Oh,
that.
okay. One serious question, though. For the pass around that you're going to be developing, is that going to be wide enough for the Joe six-pack that has the dually Ram Cummins diesel to get around the person
Yes, sir.
that's sitting? Okay.
Yes, sir.
I greatly appreciate that, Brian. And it's Mr. Atkis?
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. I want to make sure I had that right. Well, thank you so much. And again, from the town, thank you for coming tonight on this application. John, anything further? Could you just quickly address, and Mr. Atkis, you're welcome to jump in, signage and lighting. Any major changes from what we see now, or those are going to be, the additions, once you're finished, are going to be compatible with what we have on the building now?
Yes, sir. And if there's any, if we have, the intent for this kind of renovation is always to upgrade the light fixtures to LED fixtures.
Beautiful.
They're not already there now. But as far as the look and the feel that you're used to, it's going to be the same.
You read my mind. Great. Okay.
Yeah, and this elevation actually shows the same goosehead lighting that's going to be currently there. I know that they are removing one street light as part of the renovations. It's very close to the, I'll go back to the plan here real quick. Try not to make anybody sick.
To Ridgeside?
What's that again?
It's near Ridgeside?
Yeah, I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is actually the light pole here, possibly. It's very close to the existing tree.
Okay.
And it looks like this one here as well. And it doesn't look like they were replacing them on the plan that I saw. When they're moving, so the one that's getting relocated here, but the one that's down here is not getting relocated.
Gotcha. And again, just to reiterate, you're not breaking pavement to move and expand the surface area of the parking lot?
No, sir.
No grading, no sediment control, no storm drain management permissions from county necessary?
No.
Gotcha.
If we do anything to the site aside for the ADA rework, it'll be just some simple mill and overlay, if
Right.
not seal coating.
Gotcha. And I apologize to my fellow commissioners, I jumped right in there. So any other questions, Commissioner Bynett?
Yeah, so are they if they're doing lighting outside, are they the dark sky where it's not? Yeah.
Yeah, full cutoff. I think they do actually have full cutoff on the parcel already. But if they're replacing the LED lights, possibly here or the rest of the parking lot, then we'll make sure that whatever they're installing is the dark sky compatible or full cutoffs. Because if not, we'll come and tell them to change them, because we did that to Burger King when they redid their.
I was about to say, yeah, so we did have an issue with another similar restaurant where we suddenly all noticed a tremendous white light off in the distance. And so they had to do some temperature adjustments, if you know what I'm
Yes, sir.
referring to. So, yeah.
Yep.
And John was on top of that. So any other commissioner questions on the modifications for the McDonald's on Ridgeside Drive? If not, then this is where I open up to anyone in the public who wishes to ask a question or make a statement with regard to the modifications. Once again, any public interest in making a statement or question? Seeing none, I close the public comment for this topic. And now If there's no further discussion, I'm looking for a motion with respect to granting approval or not of the Mount Airy McDonald site modifications, and if your motion can include any conditions that you see necessary, then that would be my guidance to anyone wishing to make a motion at this time.
I will make a motion to recommendation for approval to allow these changes to Mount Airy McDonald's move forward with the building permit with the condition of ensuring the dark sky lighting in the event that lighting is changed.
I'll second.
We have a motion for granting approval of the Mount Airy McDonald site modifications with the condition that the work permits are only if they have full cutoff dark sky lighting. Is that accurate?
Yep.
Okay, and there was a second by Commissioner Hadley, and so is there any discussion or requested amendments to the motion? Seeing no interest in amending the motion, we will vote on the motion to grant approval of the Mount Airy McDonald site modifications with the condition that full cutoff dark sky lighting be included in the work permitting. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The vote is unanimous to accept the motion. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you guys very much.
So, John, you can move right into construction permits. No need for an amended site plan.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item is to introduce and discuss proposed elevations of the Southside Plaza, and if I could be so bold to say medical buildings, Southside Plaza buildings. A little bit of history on this is, I believe it was July 29th at our July Planning Commission meeting that we were introduced to the Southside Plaza concept plan. And in that discussion, the motions were made, and I believe it was Commissioner Wallace who encouraged us to condition that particular vote to have another look and ask the developer, I should say the applicant, to come back with some different facade designs, perhaps facade colors, because at the time, what we initially saw just didn't seem that appealing to the commissioners. And so we are here tonight as a consequence of July 29th's motion to take another look at some different elevations and designs respective of those two buildings. And I believe, John, correct me if I'm wrong, that once we and if are comfortable with these resubmitted designs, then the next stage would be to go to a final.
That's correct.
And the final would include, of course, whatever we decide is appropriate for those elevations. And then it would come back from the applicant through John, and then back in our hands for another look at it, et cetera, et cetera. And so we are at that stage, and I just do this for the public's benefit so we know kind of where we are in this process of the Southside Plaza. So with that, as I always do, John, go ahead and give us the background on these new elevations.
Sure, no worries. Thank you, Ralph. So again, these were submitted for review by the town and also Planning Commission for concept plan, site plan elevations. As you can see, the applicant did revise the south elevation and some of the other elevations to have additional gray and a lighter gray instead of the stark white that was initially submitted. You'll notice that there's a lot of glass on the south side of the, at least Building A and also Building B. And that's because the applicant was stating that the patients really sort of blossom with that additional natural lighting. I'm a little concerned about the excess glass on the south exposure for overheating in corridors and that type of stuff. But I would think that the glazing could have a low E or some type of low UV penetration. And I will say that I did receive some feedback from a citizen that they thought that the north elevations on both buildings were a little blah, and that they should have maybe some different colored lintels or possibly different colored panels completely where the windows are, something to sort of offset that. Now, I did, in your additional packet of information, I did give you the circle layout. The yellow parcel is, of course, the parcel that we're looking at for the site development plan. The blue parcel to the north, of course, is the Comcast parcel. And if you notice that the Comcast parcel has vegetation on it currently, pretty much up to where that Comcast fenced-in area is that we approved just recently. And they also increased their plantings around that with some arborvitaes, and of course the faux facade, or what faux fencing, whatever.
Fencing with slats.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of faux hedge is what I'm trying to come up with. I'm sorry. So again, I think that north elevation won't be as stark gray as it is shown here because it will be buffered by the current vegetation that's there. But I would let the applicant and the representative come up and speak.
Absolutely. So, Ron, good to see you this evening. Sir, come on up. And if I could just be so kind to identify yourself again, sir. I know you did in July.
Right. My name is Shahid Rafiq, and I'm a neurologist.
Yes, sir. Welcome.
Opening up this meeting.
And so with that background, either yourself or Mr. Thompson can add to these second set of elevations for us to consider.
What we did is, thank you, we went back to the architect and challenged him to come up with modifying the design, yet keeping in the parameters that Dr. Rakif needed in terms of maximum light exposure for his patients in the building. Now, I will tell you what the drawings don't show, but when you look on the site plan, is the building is surrounded by trees, both along in front of it as you come around the curve and between the brick house as well as along Ridgeville Boulevard, right?
South Main.
South Main, thank you. So that doesn't show up in this, but again, the architect's trying to show the building. So they went with a light gray type of off-white building to darken it a little bit. The other thing that we did in looking at the building, quite frankly, is that your town code of 20 feet doesn't allow for a two-story building in an LC zone. That we had to essentially drop the first floor 2.5 feet into the ground, add a lobby with an elevator in order to have near 10-foot ceilings, plus then 2.5 feet of joists, HVAC, before you get to the second floor to get to the 20 feet. So that's now incorporated in the design here. We're pleased with it. It is all one color. You'll notice on one of them, it looks like the lower level's a darker color than the upper level. It's the architect and their perspective of saying there's an overhang on the first floor, which would cast a shadow there on it, which would darken it up at certain times of the day.
So you're saying that's an illusion then at the, on
Well,
building A, that
yeah,
this is an illusion of the
Because
darkness.
I called them and said, wait,
Right.
there's a triangle going in the first floor there. Are you meaning to change color? And he said, that's a perspective of
You can see
the
the
graphic artist.
Right, you can see the shade line on this elevation here, the angle that's kind of going there. That's what you're talking about, the triangle.
Correct.
Right.
So we're pleased. This for us is a final design that meets, we believe, what the town had asked for, which was to take away the stark whiteness of the building. Yet it meets the needs for Dr. Rakif in his medical practice.
Gotcha.
I just want to say one thing real quick. So if you look at the east elevation of Building B, now these are definitely a grayer tone between the windows and stuff. So is that the same tone that's going to be on Building A as well? Because it's much lighter when I look at the north elevation of Building A than I look at the east elevation of Building B. I think if it was the gray tone that was between the windows and that center compartment, that would be much better than just
It is-
all gray.
It calls for light gray metal panel finish and gray metal panel window surrounds. So it's difficult depending upon our printer. You may get a slightly different color depending upon the printer that it comes out on.
So yeah, we want the darker gray as the east Building B. What's between the windows, I think, is what we would want to see.
Right.
So
So it's
tell
consistent.
your architect that we don't want to have shading. We want the true color when it
Yeah,
comes in with final
And if you
drawings.
look at the exterior materials, it goes gray metal panel window surrounds. So,
Consistent on both buildings.
yeah.
Yes,
Right.
as long as it's a dark gray, I think we're accepting that.
Right.
Or, I'm not speaking for the planning commission, but
Right.
I'm thinking, when I look at north elevation of Building A, I don't see a darker gray. I see a very pale gray that doesn't match the rest
Yeah,
of the
there's not a color
elevations.
variation is
Right.
the point. And so I think the color variation, particularly around the windows, is the focus right now. And as you've depicted it in Building A, is what we want consistent with both buildings. Is that,
Yeah, and like you're saying, if you look at the west elevation of Building A, that's correct.
right?
But I'm not sure if I look at the Building B, the east elevation, it has some reliefs between the two windows and the two floors, and there's a single tone of gray. I'm not sure if we want the same thing on Building A as well. It's up to you guys. There's
so-
discrepancies between the two
I think
buildings.
you want to let the architect kind of, if the color scheme works, the architect should have some degree of design in it.
Well, we're trying to,
As non-architects, I know you're trying to get an architect to, but
yeah. We're in Ralph Gint's words, we're trying to build confidence on what we see now is what we're going to get. I'm just kind of putting it in kind of Joe Tempeg's statement. And so we're trying to get as close to expectations delivered when it is delivered. Commissioner Bynum, you had a question?
Yeah, so my concern with this is that it's metal plate, and metal siding. Is that like sheet metal? That's the facade or the exterior?
it's not
What's-
sheet metal.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure what EIFs are, but it has to go with now the code in terms of airflow being tested. There can't be any leaks in the building,
Okay,
which makes exterior finishes. And again, keeping this, we've gone to even a wood building structure for the cost to be affordable. Otherwise, it's walk away
right.
with the medical practice. We're trying to get them here with it.
My concern is that the building right next door, the medical facility that's right next door, or it used to be across the street, right? No, it is.
The eye doctor,
Beside it?
The,
Oh, you mean
where the Papa John's and
I'm
everything
sorry.
is?
Yeah, on
Yeah.
that side.
That's brick, a brick facade, or brick or stucco or something. It's not matching this facade. And I think that in harmony of that area, we need to have some type of consistency.
we're not looking to match. We're looking to be consistent that they
But
blend.
this is not blending.
I disagree entirely.
I mean, maybe the color scheme, but I don't see that this is, the texture of the building is matching the facade of even the gas station building, and like that whole area does not, this is not lending to that palette.
Yeah, sir, go ahead.
So I'm not engineer or architect. The reason this is the way the building is for the patients. It's a medical office building, and I think it was a different commission when we explained everything that, and the physiatrist John Baker also came for a half an hour like he took a witness or explained why, because we asked for the variance. So the reason that the whole concept is that either it goes with that concept or there won't be any building, because this is not any medical office. Like what you are referring to, I think maybe family practice or internal
not
medicine
even-
doctor. So I understand that you are talking about the blending in, but I'm talking about a specific medical need. These are the neurological disorder patients. These are not the family care, cardiology, or orthopedic patients. These are, post-stroke depressed patients, Alzheimer's disease depressed patients. They need light. They need more sunlight and lighter shades. This is a specific reason, and I mean, I'm definitely want to match whatever you do, but please keep in mind that this is not, it's a neuroscience office, neurology office, particularly for Parkinson's disease patient, Alzheimer's disease patients, and a physical therapy below on the ground level to match those patients. It's a pure patient service project. It's not anything else. It's not a hotel, it's not a casino, it's not a restaurant. So please consider that. That's my
I understand, I'm sorry.
And
I understand.
let me clarify. EIFs are synthetic stucco. It's a type of cladding that provides wall exteriors with
it's a
insulated
stucco.
finished surfaces.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
so it will have a tech, because it doesn't demonstrate on this. So that's why I'm trying to understand. I want it to be in harmony. I understand the doctor's perspective that it's a medical facility, but we also have a diligence to ensure that we have harmony within our town of Mount Airy. And that's what I'm trying to go with, is that it's in harmony with the town, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I just, real quick before, and I don't think at least I don't perceive that any of us are debating the wisdom of a particular design for that particular clientele. I think we all understand that. What we're also trying to do, though, is make sure, as it was well put, I think, by Commissioner Beineck, is we also have a duty to make sure that a building doesn't stand out starkly different along a particular boulevard. And so I think we can have both of what we're aiming for, with some discussion like we've been having. So I don't think any of the kind of medically based concerns and designs that you're advocating is against any of our thinking. We're just trying to see if it can fit well with the building mentioned by Commissioner Beineck, which is next door. There's also a practice that's across the street that has
That's very modern.
a very modern design.
And
That was
this
about
is
what I
less
was
modern
going.
that or very
Gotcha.
blending into
Yeah.
that, but not. I cannot go with that Papa John's building because that either.
Yeah.
So that would be definitely not
And
what we have.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think any of us here are saying build it just like that. Well, I don't think any of us are saying that. That would be the extreme position. I think what we're saying is here, as we move down that street, past that existing building, and then on toward yours, there's not a sudden stark change in design. Or colors.
Most of it
Yeah.
would be hidden by trees.
We understand that from John's lead-in. There is a good buffer there on the parking lot
More
side of.
trees. We can put more trees as much as
Gotcha.
we want, and nobody can see the building from the tree. I can make sure that. Sort of that. But once the patients are in the building, I want to take care of them. Otherwise, there's no point.
No argument there. Commissioner Bynek, did you have anything else to add?
No, I just
Okay.
wanted it to be somewhat similar. I'm not asking for brick or those type of things. I just want it to match, to be in harmonious.
Harmony is a good,
Harmony.
yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hadley?
This may be a question for Tom, but you're talking about almost like a requirement for your patients with the windows.
Yes.
I'm just wondering how much weight that carries, because it's like a specific medical condition, and they need it for their practice, almost like a piece of medical equipment. Like a heart doctor would need, whatever he would need for his office to function, and it seems to me he's saying, and you can tell me I'm wrong, like if these windows are very critical to your patient's health and welfare.
I don't
Is
think
that
any-
fair to say?
Yeah, if
The
there's
answer to
any,
that
if
was
there-
yes.
if there's any other way of getting more sunlight and more light into the building, I'm open to that.
I don't think
I thought
anybody's
it was
complaining about the windows. I don't think anybody disagrees with the windows. I think there's just maybe a need to soften the facade. We talked about that last time. There are other buildings, the eye care center right across the street is very modern, but the first floor is brick. And so it softens that modern.
Yeah, and
Well,
let
the
me
windows are the first
put the
thing we're
whole
seeing. That's
cards
what I
on
was
the
thinking.
table here.
No, okay.
We're on the bubble of it being able to move forward cost-wise. I mean, that's why we have the synthetic stucco wood frame. It did start out as a steel building, framing. Can't afford it. The medical practice, the architect has had to dial back to a wood frame building with a stucco finish on it in order to keep it within the cost parameters to be built. I
Understood.
mean,
Yeah. Let me open up
we're
to,
not going to build a monument building here.
I understand. The other commissioners have any issues or questions on these new elevations? Commissioner Beta?
I have no questions or issues.
Okay.
I did. I mean, I think we went from a bland white to a bland gray. Is there anything medical besides the windows that you're talking about with the exterior? It's just the windows, correct? So I think the windows are fine, but I think what everybody is saying is, and what we talked about last time, is just something different, something that looks a little bit different in the building. It's just a bland gray building now. There's nothing that highlights it. We said brick, but there's no trim. There's nothing that makes it look inviting. When you come around the corner, it just hits you. It's just a bland gray building now instead of a bland white.
Well, I think you've got different colors on it for it. It's not just bland. I think the architect's done a great job of trying to show a different color up the walls and so forth that allow it to
I mean, you
not
want
be
more
just
gray, a darker shade of gray, we can paint that. Or I'm failing to understand what, because every time we go back to architect, it's causing, already 2 years gone since I bought, I just did it for the patients who come from Mount Airy, and I can go back to them and say that this is an issue, and maybe I cannot.
Let me offer,
I just,
let me offer perhaps kind of a middle ground on this. Would the architect you're working with, Mr. Thompson and sir, would the architect have existing examples of existing buildings that have this kind of material and color combination? And if so, then it would really be helpful if we could see kind of, oh, that's down in, wherever. As kind of an example.
in Frederick?
Anywhere.
along Interstate 70 out of Lincoln.
In
Yeah.
Frederick also.
Yeah, because I'm kind of thinking, again, not being an architect, that these wouldn't have been recommended unless they have been tried and proven to be in harmony within a community or to be acceptable to other communities. So if, and I'm not trying to lead the commissioner, if we were to move forward with these elevations, then your final site plan could include examples of existing such buildings and materials. Is that a fair?
If we have them, we will provide them as exhibits, not within the site plan, but as exhibits.
To accompany?
Because
Understand.
site plan becomes a legal document that we have to build
Okay,
to.
but you could bring those with a final site plan as,
Well, or we'd submit them as part of the review with John.
Right.
Yeah,
They
right.
could submit a panel board or a sample board of these types of material showing the two different color grays, and we could
Right.
say, no, we want a bit more gray.
Yeah.
Or
Well-
whatever, like,
or just, again, that's great, but again, if that could even be accompanied by, like, here's the same building, we're looking at color combination, rough elevation similarity in, pick a town in Maryland or anywhere, I don't care. I think that would be helpful for all of us to kind of see it, because these are renditions, these are illustrations. So, Commissioner Butts?
I'd also like to get back to some mention that we've gotten away from, and that's the unique purpose of this facility. Why is it that you were thinking about that capability of this type of facility in greater Mount Airy, or given where Mount Airy is located and so forth? I think we need to understand that, because that's in my book, that's a much more important priority than the style of the building. That could be potentially modified and it stay within the guidelines, the cost guidelines that you're interested in. But I want to hear some more about why this particular kind of facility and why you think it's a good fit for our community.
Right, so basically the doctors who will be working here, one is Dr. Laura Brosby. She comes from Pikesville, Baltimore, and travel all the way to Frederick. And so she is a Parkinson's disease movement disorder specialist. So 90% of her practice is that particular set of patients. The other doctor lives in Ellicott City, and he is a neuromuscular specialist and multiple sclerosis specialist, MS specialist. So both these doctors are specialized further into neurology. Like I am a stroke specialist, so we are subspecialists beyond the general neurology. So that is why these are specific, and also because the offices that we have in Frederick, Maryland, on Thomas Johnson Drive, already is not built like that. What we wanted was that physical therapy or rehab existing with the neuroscience. So that's totally new concept. It was not existent, like say 10 years back. So those buildings were not, so new buildings should be like that if there's a neuroscience patient population office. They should be like that.
Well, any kind of incremental medical facility that we can have in our community to respond to the growing needs, whether it's of an aging population or particular types of practice that we don't have access to now without driving far away, that's of interest to us.
And that's what I thought, that because a lot of patients, I've been in practice 18 years now, the patients come from, and so now they're 18 years older, my patients who are still following me. And then there are new patients every day from Mount Airy, and they will get older. And all these neurological disorder makes you disabled, whether it's Parkinson's disease or MS or dementia or stroke. You cannot drive, you cannot, even walk long distances. And that's why the concept of physical therapy and medical office at the same place.
Yeah.
Understood, yeah.
So you don't, you don't have the physical therapy with the neuroscience at the other office? And
No.
this would be unique for this office?
Exactly.
Okay.
Because we could, because we are building, but now I'm
Right.
kind of thinking back, did I have to do that? Because it's such, I never thought that building would be that, I mean, because I'm naive, I'm not saying that you guys are difficult, but it is difficult building because it's already 2 years and still I'm not anywhere.
Yep.
And still, there's cost which I didn't anticipate.
Thank you. Again, one more try at the commissioners. Any further questions or interest or comments? If not, let me just get clarity before I open for public questions or comments. On the topic earlier as to providing along with the final plan exhibits showing existing buildings, that is in your mind, that is a reasonable or unachievable request?
We will try.
We will try.
I do not know if the architect
Has any?
has them.
That's fair.
I will ask.
That's fair.
But
Okay.
I can, if the photos are available, because I see on Thomas Johnson Drive, some of the buildings, new buildings are all glass and, you know.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
So it's kind of a if possible.
If possible.
If
yeah.
possible. Okay, that's fair. So at this point, I would ask if anyone in the public audience would like to approach the mic and make a question or comment. I see one interest, and the gentleman, if he'll identify himself.
Sir,
Mr. Munder?
If you could turn that on, please. Push down towards the floor.
Green light?
Should be great.
Green light, okay. Carl Munder, 2002 Philbrook Lane. Quick question or comment on this too. At the last meeting in July, it was specifically said bring back different design options for the facade. I don't believe anybody here is questioning the need for the type of medical practice that's coming into town or the amount of glass on the south side to infiltrate the interior with the light. Particularly what John said concerning maybe with the heat transfer into it, maybe the glazing glass can be coated, but that's neither here nor there. That's later down the thing. And the EIS panel is kind of a new construction technique. I believe a lot to us that don't know about it. But upon a quick search is that from a March 23, 2020 thing on EIF construction said recently some manufacturers have started to offer systems incorporating thin veneers such as ceramic tile, masonry, and natural stone and brick as an alternative to the original EIFS finish coat. That basically means to me is that you can put the panels up and then have a mason come back behind you and even do with a half of it the front, a thin veneer of stone to it. Like the medical building you can see off of 70 in Newmarket by the Goddard School and the Sunoco looks much better, can go into with the design coming into town and the feel and the look. So there are other options for the EIS panel besides just getting them made at the factory, painted with a stucco coat or anything. It's veneering stone even to it. You can even do it on the back of it, the gray, and then maybe a stone panel or something between the windows to break it up. That way it should not be offering a lot of extra expense to the exterior of the building, even if it's just the front or just mix up some of the different, to add some variety and can go with the other flow of the town, of the buildings. I think that's what the common complaint is here. Thank you.
Gotcha. Thank you. Any other interest in the public comment or question? Seeing none, I'll close the public comments and questions on this topic. And at this point, we would be looking for a motion from any commissioner regarding these elevations. And again, my guidance to the motion would strictly be pertaining to these elevations, because the next step, if these elevations are accepted tonight, the next step would be to find them in the total final plan that would come later to the town and then again come before us. So I say that because we will see this again, in the final plan form, and we can deliberate on what we see inside that final plan again, okay? So with that, with this discussion, with the discussion on possible additional existing building exhibits and illustrations, is there a motion of interest from the commissioners?
Mr. Chair, I have one question about
Sure,
this.
Commissioner
Really quick,
Bynum.
Sorry. So if we're just approving or recommending approval for the elevation period. Then in the next set of meeting for the next portion of this
The final
is
plan.
the exterior, talking about the exterior, the color and everything else, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because I
everything.
don't want to go forward with this plan if it's not meeting
No.
or what we want for the exterior portion.
So we're at the concept plan.
Okay.
We're at these are our ideas. These are our general size, shape, form, et cetera. And the first time we went at this at the end of July, we didn't like the aspects regarding the concept for the facade and for the elevation colors and so forth. So, yeah, so when it comes back at the final plan, everything's on the table. Correct me if I'm wrong, John or Tom?
Yeah, ultimately, that could, I'm sorry, yes, that can still be part of that. Again, I think a sample board of the different types of panels would be critical to see the different tones of gray between the two.
That's fair.
Because with the shading, I'm not sure exactly what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, I'm just not comfortable approving for the facade right now, and I'm not comfortable with the colors at this point. So if we're just going for the motion to approve for elevation, then I'm okay with that. If it's something greater than that, then I'm not okay with moving forward.
It does say, approval for the revised elevations on the request. So I have a question about the motion itself. If I just read the motion as part of the staff recommendation, but add to it to include examples of existing buildings
Exactly.
with
Yep.
similar exteriors, and then there was some shading?
Shading, well, the color, either the texture of the facade.
Could be a
Veneer.
sample finish board.
Okay.
Some type of sample board.
Texture veneer sample.
Yeah.
Okay. How does that sound, Tom? Okay, so, is that okay if I go ahead and?
Yeah, make 'em.
Okay, so then I'd like to make a motion that, I'm so sorry, Planning Commission grant approval of the revised elevations for both buildings A and B of Southside Plaza located at 1508 and 1510 South Main Street, to include examples of existing buildings with similar exteriors, as well as samples for the texture and veneer of the exterior.
I believe that's pretty comprehensive. Well done. Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Commissioner Beta seconds the motion. Any further discussion on the motion as worded by Commissioner Hatley? Does any commissioner need the motion repeated? Very well then, all in favor of the motion stated by Commissioner Hatley and seconded by Commissioner Beta, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The motion is passed unanimously, so we will look then for the fuller plan in the final plan stages with those elements.
Procedurally, we'll come back if Dr. O'Keefe decides to move forward.
Sure.
He will, and the architect will most likely come back with something to look at on a board, because he's about to launch into spending a lot of dollars. With a concept, you move into final site design and you move into building design concurrently with it. He's got to know whether or not to spend the money or not at that point in time. He
Absolutely.
can't wait till the end of the site plan, come back, and you all shoot him down. And he goes, why did I spend all this money in thinking I should come here? So, I mean, I'm putting it real hard on the table so that you understand it here. So, it needs to be the architect. Sorry. It will need to be the architect coming back with Dr. O'Keefe before we're moving to a final site plan, much like you had these elevations here.
Yeah. No, thank you, Mr. Thompson. I think we're all clear on the procedure.
Yep.
I think we're absolutely all clear on the procedure, although I greatly appreciate your education. And we look forward to the next final plan with all those ingredients that we just asked for. So thank you again, both of you. This topic is closed. We're going to now move to the agenda item for the introduction, discussion, and possible approval of the concept plan known as S220036 King Sports Construction LLC. This is the concept site development plan for Lot 15C, 15 Charlie, of the Twin Arch Business Park, located at 2310 Back Acre Circle. And as the commissioners reset their desks with that material, I'll ask for John to give us the staff analysis and recommendation.
He just walked away. One moment.
Okay,
Proceed without you.
we will take a lot of time to get reset and get your material for this. And I think, Mr. Thompson, you're here for the applicant also, aren't you?
I'm here for the Kings. I know that they went to Tennessee
Okay,
the earlier last week, and I am guessing they, like I, suffered through the hurricane, and where they're located,
they may be stuck.
yeah, west
Right.
Carolina,
Right,
and up in the Tennessee
indeed.
area.
Gotcha. No. So again,
Like a war zone now.
no, we do appreciate you being here on their behalf. And so let me begin, and just in the interest of time, oh, John's coming back. I think he is. Sure, sure, okay. We're not going to run off without you, John. Yeah. So I'll do some kind of Captain Obvious statements here just to tee this up for the public. So this is a parcel known as Lot Charlie, located in the Twin Arch Industrial Park. The applicant is King Sports Construction, and that particular area, and perhaps Mr. Thompson will just engage here while we're talking about it. That particular area and those parcels have gone through a rather good history of subdivision and dividing and rearrangement, I think. And so this is another parcel that's delineated as 15 Charlie. And I believe we have two buildings that are being proposed as a part of this concept plan on the property. There's a lot of surface repaving, I guess, because a lot of the surface material there now doesn't match. It's been installed at different times over the years, that sort of thing. There are some legacy items that I will be asking about, maybe some of the other commissioners. And what I mean about legacy items is, like, I'm curious as to where are we today with regard to the concrete bunkers? I think they're referenced as horizontal silos. So if you can touch upon that when John gets back, that would be good. I don't know if they're going to remain or if they're even there now, because that was a place of storage temporarily for old artificial turf, if I'm not mistaken, outdoor storage or something.
No.
No? Okay.
History. This is the out parcel from the industrial subdivision. All of the lots now have buildings. I didn't drive out to see if Lot 19 has steel going up. I know that the concrete is in Lot 17, so the industrial subdivision is essentially completed. One more lot, Lot 73, which is also a foster lot that someday will be developed. So this is Lot 15. This went through an initial site plan for just use. And coming out of that was that, and that note is continued here today, that the turf field materials shall be stored either under roof or under tarp or in plastic bags, plastic wrapping. There was an old horizontal silos that were used for livestock.
Composting stuff.
Yeah, or hay or whatever, and covered.
Right.
They've collapsed,
Okay.
basically. And our grading somewhat shows them going away there.
Okay.
They're not being used. Any materials are stored, in that case, under shed, under roof. So with that, initial site plan, the Kings came back and looked at a development plan to finish the site. There are originally 3 buildings proposed, still really 3, but one of them you all allowed to move forward because you had steel sitting on the ground. Stormwater management was completed for it, and they've received their approval from stormwater management as built, for which now is called in your plan existing building 3. So there are 2 buildings left to be built. What we're showing, a large flex industrial building. Whether I divide that building for a final site plan, I'm not quite sure. It's pretty ambitious. And a smaller warehouse building called building number 1, which is 6,000 square feet. So in this, when initial work was done and there was an above-ground fuel tank that was approved and put in, working with the town, a lot of the lot was repaved. Past history, one of the buildings was used temporarily as a residence, and a grace period the town gave because it was a worker. That person's been gone for almost a year, I believe. Sure. Now, and that brick building's used as their office right now. For it, the other one, the smaller house, is vacant. So we went through a process where the septic systems were, through the health department, had to be abandoned properly in order for the 2 existing houses to be hooked up to the sanitary sewer system. That was completed. The well was actually down by Twin Arch Road. That was properly abandoned with the health department. And now we've come back with what would be an ultimate build-out for the site, which includes the darker area is on sheet 3 is new pavement. The flex building number 2 would be where the 2 existing houses are at this point in time. So with that, we've come back with permeable pavement to treat the parking areas. As part of this, previously completed, you all approved a re-subdivision plan, and I believe plat, that separated out the open space area and forest conservation area into separate.
Right. And that was pending
Yeah, which they're not happy about, but that's
EPA Phase 1. Yep.
not an EPA,
I mean,
environmental site
ESA.
delineation. Yeah,
Thank you.
assessment for it. And that's still pending. So this has gone through review. Carroll County, I don't want to put words in the town. We were at a concept where the concept has been approved by the agencies in Carroll County, stormwater management, landscape, forest conservation. And town has made their comments to the point now that we are here for concept plan approval,
Right.
which then sets the stage to allow the client to move into a final site plan.
Understood.
Is that
Yep.
kind of,
So,
and
John?
just to cap off, there are 2 elements that were provided also
Right.
with this, the APFO documentation that you have to go through in the open space.
Correct, yeah, and I'm going to address that. So I think, John, it's fair to say that this agenda item has really got 3 parts to it, and if I may. There's the concept plan offered itself that we've been kind of getting an overview here. But as it states in our code, any concept plan, at the concept plan stage for any concept plan, we also have an obligation from the commission to do the APFO assessment and certification. As part of that, so the concept plan's one, the APFO certification is number two, and as a part of number two, we also have now under the code from the town council, specifically to the seventh area of APFO, which is open space and parks, we have an obligation now to go through the open space waiver checklist.
Correct.
And then once we deliberate and decide on it, that checklist then becomes documented, or if I could use the words from the code, memorialized as a part of the record of the concept plan being submitted to the town. Am I on base so far?
That's correct.
Okay. And then third, the last item that we have around this agenda item is that because we also have a commission obligation at the concept plan stage to assess the financial revenues, the financial data, and the revenues of this projected business so that it can in fact produce the design that is being proposed and that the proposed design also meets all governmental environmental standards, compliance with governmental environmental standards. And so the concept plan itself, the APFO with the specifics of the open space waiver checklist, and then the financial environmental standards deliberation from this commission as to whether, from your good data and argument data from the applicant, that it meets those requirements. So I only do this because it's not just the plan. We've got these other elements that we have to do at any concept plan stage. And so what I would offer to the commissioners is that a concept plan can't be deliberated on, item number one, unless we have cleared it for the open space APFO. And we have verified the financial data and the environmental compliance. Do you understand my logic? Because if we can't get those two boxes checked, then there's no need to go into a concept plan deliberation focused on the actual information that we have up here on the screen and in the blueprints. So if that's a fair path for us to hit all three marks tonight, then I would propose that we begin with looking at the APFO certification. And we then, of course, have to go through the checklist. And I see, John, you have prepared the checklist, perhaps with some information from Mr. Thompson. But we have the checklist before you. So if I could ask everybody in their packet to just go to the worksheet. And again, this is 25-5G that we are adhering to as a commission. With the data that's provided in the baseline information on the front page, I'll pause while everybody just glances through that if you haven't already had a chance to look at it thoroughly. This is an industrial zone district, and the requirement for open space from an industrial zone district is, anybody want to tell me? Exactly right, is 0, but nonetheless, we have to do it for every concept plan regardless of zoning district, okay? So I won't go through the data that's on the baseline front sheet. I will ask if there are no questions on the baseline data to John. Let's go right to the questions that we're required to examine. The first one is the extent to which the open space in the proposed development exceeds the minimum requirements set forth for this development set forth in the code 98-23. And so because this is industrial zone, it doesn't have a requirement. Its requirement is 0. The 9.2235 that is on our worksheet reflects the parcel that is going to be eventually deeded to the town. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and so that was that reference that Mr. Thompson made a moment ago with regard to that adjoining property and what it has to still go through in order for it to become, in fact, accepted by the town, which is the ESA Phase 1 assessment of general well-being of the ground, well-being of the water and the elements on that parcel. And if I may be so bold for the public again, that ESA Phase 1 was asked for just to make sure that the town gets this property free and clear of any potential future liability with regard to contaminants. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct.
Or toxic materials, okay? So the 9.2235, coming back to the checklist, represents that acreage of that to-be deeded property. Is that correct?
Yes, and some
Okay.
of that acreage, it won't be usable for actual calculations to open space because it is steep slopes or wetlands, but it's still, the entire parcel that's getting deeded to the town is the 9.2235.
Gotcha. And before I go to 2, are there any questions on that answer that's provided to us in the worksheet? Then the second question is the magnitude of the town's park and open space deficit at the time that the waiver is under consideration, and whether the proposed development will increase or decrease the deficit. Trying to understand the none, John?
I think that's inaccurate.
Yeah, so I think the current
Current open space needs to be in that spot.
the current open space deficit is roughly
75.03,
75.03
yes.
acres, okay? So scratch out none, 75.03 acres. And whether the proposed development will increase or decrease the deficit, obviously it will bring the deficit down by 9.2235 acres. Did I-
Just as a
Right, turn off.
correction, the actual open space, the area is 9.2235. The open space, eligible for open space, is 8.3049 acres. 3049. John had asked that that be on the plan.
Thank you.
8.3049 is the correct answer in the first question.
Thank you.
Yeah, so cross out 9.2235 and put in 8.3049 acres, okay? Back to number 2, 75.03 acres is our current deficit, and then this will be reduced by the amount in answer A. Any questions on the second question? The third question, whether the proposed development optimizes the proposed open space in consideration of the amount, nature, dimensions, quality, location, et cetera. John, we have in here that it's to be considered passive presently.
That's correct. It's a forest conservation easement, so it'll be passive and it won't be mowed but once or twice a year.
Okay,
So it'll be passive.
it'll be passive use, okay. Any questions on number 3's answer with your worksheet? Number 4, then, any other factors that the Planning Commission deems relevant in consideration of the waiver specific to the proposed development? So open to any commissioner thoughts as to any other factors regarding, I think we have a pretty good explanation of what's going to be the use once it is deeded. I think we have a pretty good understanding of a condition being that we're going to have an ESA Phase 1 done thoroughly on it by the applicant at his cost before the town considers taking that deed. No other considerations? That's adequate, as is? Okay, then none for number 4. And number 5, again, the Planning Commission may impose any conditions on granting this waiver. I'm open to any conditions. There is a condition in here that the Phase 1 ESA will need to be provided final approval. Yes, that's a good statement. We've been saying that. Open to any other commissioner consideration of a condition? Seeing none, I believe we completed the 5 questions required by the code for the commission. And as recommended in previous open space waivers by the town attorney, we should end this with then a motion being made. And the motion guidance from me is to approve or to disapprove the open space waiver that accompanies the concept plan for Lot 15C. So I'm open to a motion.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the open space waiver worksheet for Lot 15C.
Okay,
Sorry.
gotcha. With the condition,
Sorry.
with the condition as stated for the ESA Phase 1.
Do you need me to say it to make it
Yeah,
official?
yeah.
Okay.
because otherwise I'll have to modify it, yeah.
Right, with the condition that the ESA will be provided prior to the final site plan approval by the applicant.
Beautiful. Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Commissioner Beta seconds it. Any further discussion of the open space waiver checklist? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion as stated by Commissioner Hadley, please say so by giving me an aye or a yay.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, it's unanimous that the open space waiver is approved with the condition stated in the motion. So now we will deliberate on that other part, which is 25-4, certification of the adequacy, certification of the projected financial data, revenues to be generated from the building of the proposed development project will be sufficient to provide the required services to such project, and I'm going to include in this also the commission considering whether any information provided by the proposed development project is consistent with applicable governmental environmental standards. And so again, Mr. Thompson has provided an addendum to the concept plan, which covers both of those. Before a motion, are there any questions as to the material to consider both of those? Hearing none, then I would make a motion myself to accept the applicant's submission of projected financial data at the concept plan stage for Lot 15C, record S22-0036, that there will be sufficient revenue for the applicant to provide the required services to this project, and that the proposed project is consistent with applicable governmental environmental standards. Do I have a second or hear a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Beta seconds that motion. Any discussion on the wording of the motion? There's no discussion. All those in favor of the motion to accept the applicant's submission of projected financial data and that the proposed project is consistent with applicable governmental environmental standards, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed to accepting that information? Say nay. Hearing none, it is unanimous that the commission accepts the information for financial data and government environmental standards. So again, these two had to be done before we can now deliberate on the real meat of the concept plan, which is before us now. And so I believe we've had a little bit of introduction on the elements of that plan from Mr. Thompson. John took off again. Okay. I do want to give him a chance to kind of highlight some items that are on this plan. So in the absence of John, do any commissioners have any questions they can direct to Mr. Thompson then perhaps on what you see before you? Anybody?
Just real quick, when will they know, or when will they have the ESA report? Oh, it's just,
I don't know. They're upset that they got to pay money to give the town the open space. I'm trying to coax them to do it, but they're not happy about it.
Any questions at all about the design, placement of buildings? Questions about, you've already mentioned that you have county stormwater approval?
Concept.
Yep, at the concept stage, right?
I have a question.
Commissioner Walsh? Yeah, I'm sorry. Apologies.
So can you just explain again, I think last time when we were talking about this, we were talking about the synthetic turf and how the rubber is shaken out, and that's done in that three-sided shed?
It's shaken. He has a specific machine that he uses to shake it, again, for the rubber pellets, where they're shaken and collected in large plastic bags that are then taken and reused on the fields. Once that's completed, the synthetic turf is rolled up, wrapped with maybe not totally covered, but it's wrapped to keep it from unrolling. And then eventually it is loaded onto a truck and taken to a recycling place that chews it up and creates it for indoor tracks for horses or whatever else. But it is not recycled in that manner on the site.
So when I was reading the title sheet of the site development plan, I was looking at the materials storage paragraph on the right-hand side, and then I was reading the water resource protection paragraph. So the property is located within an aquifer protection area. There will be no use, sale, or storage of hazardous or regulated substances, blah, blah, blah. Then it says in materials storage that turf field materials consisting of these synthetic fiber blades shall be stored either under roof or under tarp or in plastic bags or plastic wrapping. And so based on what you just described, they're not wholly contained within any plastic wrapping. And if they're placed on the ground, even though they're covered by a tarp, if they're sitting there for any length of time waiting to go out, potentially there could be leaching into the soil. So I just didn't know if, that was, I don't think that those two statements really agree.
They
one
do
another.
because synthetic turf is not regulated by MDE, or it's not considered one of those items for hazardous material.
Yeah.
They look at storage of loose cans of gas, oil.
Right.
Things-
Something that's known to have the PFOA in it sitting on the ground.
Is not regulated at this time. So they're two consistent statements.
Then I think, maybe the town should be looking at the code for storage of things like anything with PFOAs on the ground or outside. And even in a three-sided, shed with a roof, let's face it, water blows in there and there could be runoff. So I just wanted to bring that up again.
When you say ground, the shed is not a dirt floor, or is it a cement floor?
I think there's a concrete floor to it or some type
Are
of
you
floor.
referring to dirt, or are you just thinking that it's going to fly out of the shed because
It
it's?
could run out.
Yeah,
and
it could
water
run out.
can come in. It's open. It's totally open, and it's a really tall, it's a
Yeah.
tall shed.
Yeah, I went and looked at it.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to verify.
Yeah.
It's ground earth, and then it's on the cement, but I asked about a door, I think, at one point. It was not possible for them or something. But I did go online and look at recycling turf. I wish the Kings were here because I would like to verify, exactly. But when they shook, and they were doing it, this was a company in California doing it, and they literally shook it outside, and it just fell to the ground. It looked simple, but the guy was not wearing a mask. There was no sort of hazmat suit that the people were wearing whatsoever. Is that similar?
Mr. King has a proprietary patent
Oh,
for the machine he designed and built.
okay.
It's kind of a one-of-a-kind machine, which is kind of one of the reasons why they do a lot of turf fields, because it
But
waste not, because those beads can be reused.
And I appreciate what they're doing, trying to recycle those. I will say that in my research from the last time this came to the commission, I don't believe there's any actual certified recycling process or anything like that. And it's all moot apparently because that is not considered a hazardous substance. But what I'm saying is that for a town that is dealing with contaminated water, I think they should consider looking at how they are, allowing these things to happen, so.
Plus, we have the, the trailer park that we currently
Yeah.
are helping with their water because of the contamination. And this is right above it.
Yeah, and if I may, Mr. Thompson, if you turn to page 5 out of 11 on the diagrams, if I could ask you, please, there's a detail box that says on-site concrete washout structure. And so for me, kind of staying in this, and I know we're all kind of focused on this because it is critical. I mean, the town, and I think across the nation, we're really focused on, you know, the quality of groundwater. So when I see the words, so just help me on understanding what activity is associated with this particular detail, because when you say to me washout structure, it sounds like we're using some kind of hydraulics to remove something or wash something.
That's a sediment control feature that is used when you build a building.
Okay,
Concrete trucks come on
right,
site. After they've finished pouring the concrete, they wash the inside of the barrel of the concrete,
yep.
and it has to go into a pit that's got tarp around it.
I got
So
you.
it does not leach into the ground. It hardens up and then is removed,
I got you.
as opposed to flowing off to the wetlands.
And we've all seen that, right? And it just hardens and becomes a part of the landscape, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. That's good. That's the clarity I needed. Because again, I'm kind of in the same thinking that these folks are in washing out, shaking out, removing pellets, having the exposure of that to the ground, and then potential leaching, et cetera, et cetera. Any other questions, Commissioner Vita?
I was just mentioning, I actually talked to you, Mr. Thompson, about the concrete washout last time he was here.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions on this?
Not
Commissioner
necessarily
Walls?
a question, but, I mean, maybe at some point down the road, the town should consider maybe testing in that area, wherever your stormwater is. I don't know, just see if there's any contaminants coming out.
So if this concept plan is approved, because we've already gone through the APFO and the financial and the environmental standards approval, if this is approved, John, correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe Tom, a kind of embedded question I'm going to steer toward here is, we then move into the final plan, right?
Right, then he would move into submitting a final plan for review.
Correct. And I guess the question I have, and I suppose it's a question that isn't covered in the code, because there are repeated concerns as to the processing that's going to occur on this particular site. Is it fair, Tom, to ask that in addition to the concept plan, there's an exhibit that kind of delineates from arrival to going out for recycling, some education as to what exposure of those materials is going to be on the site? Or is that beyond the authority of this commission to ask for that kind of information as a part of the concept plan?
I think it's fair to ask, absolutely.
Okay,
It's already an approved use under the previous final site plan. We're not asking to change that use.
okay.
So it's already been approved by the Planning Commission.
I understand approved use. I think what would be educational for us here is to understand the steps of that use. The material is out in the air being shaken. If we could just have a concise understanding of the activity of recycling that turf, I think it would allay a lot of concerns and give us good insight as to issues related to, you know, leaching or air exposure. And I think that's a fair concern. I mean, I speak for Ralph Ginn here, but just down the road, we have the Goddard School. Just down the road and across the street, we have a residential area. Town-wide, we have a concern with regard to groundwater contamination from the PFAS, and you know, we all know that. So I think it's within the realm of reasonable that, I don't know whether we would label it as an exhibit, Tom, or just an addendum that gives us an education at the final site plan submission, a good full understanding of the processing of that material through this business. Is that fair, or the other commissioners kind of echo the same?
Yeah, my understanding is one thing in my head. That's why I was kind of it's unfortunate Mr. King isn't here to better explain, because I didn't know that he designed this system. So it's probably entirely different from what I
Yeah,
saw, that, and, you know, it's a different company, but
right.
that was through my research. So I would like to know a little bit more about the process,
Yeah,
especially the dust that I saw come off
Right.
in the other process, you know, in the other company.
right.
Because the pellets went down, everything went down with just, you know, starting the vibration, but then there was dust, and that
Yeah.
worker was not wearing a mask. So, I mean, this was California, they were pretty strict on that stuff anyway.
Progressive with their
Yeah,
environmental laws
yes.
in California.
So if they were allowing it in California, you know, and this is on YouTube, anybody could go look it up, then I'm just wondering, I mean, and, you know, we have our own issues here independent of that, but.
Yeah, yeah, and again, again, it would possibly be just me as an opinion, but, you know, as a business owner, if there's some question as to the activities related to their service, their product, that the community has shared a concern with, I think the applicant would be more than eager to keep the ball rolling by making, giving us some kind of understanding of what that is, so we could allay those issues and fears. So with that short discussion, the town staff has prepared a recommendation on their report, the last page. I won't read it. You certainly can. There are some conditions proposed in that recommendation. I personally don't have any issues with regard or clarity needed for any of those conditions, but I would ask if any commissioner has any questions on those conditions or that recommendation?
Go ahead. Nope, you first.
Commissioner
Can we
Hatley?
add what we just discussed?
Yeah, so
what
yeah, so you're reading my mind. So maybe what I just described could be, you know, kind of captured in a short condition statement?
I was gonna ask that, is this going to be a condition added on for approval? Because I'm not, at this point, with just this, I need more clarity to be able to vote yay to this. I don't wanna,
Right.
I need more information.
Yeah, so the only way they can move forward to the final plan, which is the next step, is if we approve the concept plan. We can attach conditions onto the concept plan to include providing a detailed, let me see if I can put the words here together now, a detailed understanding of the processing of the material on the site, something like that. In addition to all these others that are proposed by John and the town staff, I think that would be understood as a condition.
Okay, so if I were to say, in addition to all of the other requirements, a detailed explanation from Mr. King on his patented turf recycling process. Because you did say the word patented, Mr. Thompson.
It's my understanding.
Okay, thank you. How does that sound?
It's to be specific to his patented process, just,
To take out that word,
yeah, just, yeah.
to his turf recycling process.
So detailed explanation of the turf recycling process. Short and sweet. Okay. Recycling process. Okay. And we are short of a motion. We're just talking about things that would be of interest to us in a motion. So if there's no further discussion, then I would open to the public here as to any comments or question relative to this topic. Please come forward, identify yourself, and as I did with Mr. Munder, or did I, 2 minutes? Okay.
Stephen Demoter, Mount Airy resident for 32 years. Just a quick question on page 5, where you talk about adequacy of public facilities. Item number 5, fire and rescue services. It says the certification of adequacy is pending. So when is that certification going to be done, and do you need that before you approve this plan? I understand it says, before that, it says the fire department's reviewed and approved the design and layout and public safety considerations. I don't know what public safety considerations means but clearly certification of adequacy is pending tells me that has not been certified yet. So that is my question. Do you need certification before you vote on this? Thank you.
So the certifications, again, have sort of gone into a transition mode now with the county taking over our fire departments. This one didn't go to Carroll County's main office for certification. So we need to resubmit to them as part of this approval of the plan. I think we can move ahead with the concept plan, and it would just be a factor as part of the final site development plan.
To be thorough, should we add that as a condition?
Yes.
Okay, so another condition would be, and have final fire EMS.
Well, again, so they had done a review and they'd given us an adequacy. But then now the transition to the paid firefighters and Carroll County's main office, I felt like it should go back to them for a review.
Oh, I
So
got
it's
you.
adequate. Again, we sort of went through this
Under the old system.
right under the old system.
I got you.
Where they weren't following the code to approve adequacy?
Well, they were following the procedures they had in place.
Right, but they weren't following the code. And so that would be my question, is whoever is approving it should be following the guidelines that are in the code.
And we're working with Carroll County right now to come up with an adequacy certification checklist.
Based on the town code.
Okay, exactly.
So I'm a fair guy, and that's not on the applicant. That's on the county.
County and us.
Right. So,
I don't feel like it should be burdening them moving on to the next stage if it's something that's transitioned in the county. But also, can we allow, and I would kick this to Tom possibly, can we allow a concept plan to move forward without that certification?
How do we let a fire of the county?
we certainly can't let a final plan go forward.
Right. But I'm saying to allow them to
This
move on to
stage.
final stage, can we allow that certification or the adequacy or inadequacy of that certification from fire and EMS?
So I guess my question is, according to the code, services are adequate if the chief of the Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Department or his designee has certified 1 through 4. Has that occurred or has that not occurred?
Well, so that occurred at the county level, or at the firehouse level prior to the chief coming into, the new chief coming into play, and Carroll County taking over responsibility of certification.
But
So,
they didn't certify it, though, based on the
They
code.
certified it.
correct,
So the chief's designee certified it,
yes.
right?
But as to Heather's thing, is not to the 4 levels in the code.
Which levels were missing?
They were using different criteria,
Right.
Oh,
the criteria that's in the code.
okay. So we do not have a certification.
Have we officially said back to them that it's insufficient, it has to be redone?
Right, I had submitted a form for review and approval so that we could resubmit.
I got you.
We haven't resubmitted. This plan did go to them. I don't think I have a response back from them
I hear
on
you.
this plan.
So I guess kind of where we are right now is we're on the edge of a motion regarding the concept plan, but I'm hearing that of the 7 areas, the fire EMS still is outstanding. Is that
That's correct.
okay? And if any one of the 7 areas is still not assessed as adequate or approaching adequate,
That's what the code says.
right, we can or cannot move forward with a motion on a concept plan.
If
So my question is, number 5 says fire and rescue service is adequate, but in the paragraph, it says adequacy is pending.
Yeah.
So which one of them is it?
It's,
Right, so.
Is it pending, or is it not
sort of-
pending, or what?
It fell in this sort of odd query because it was adequate, but based on Heather's concerns, is it wasn't meeting the code, which then made us move forward with the application for certification, which is at the county for review.
Gotcha.
So I haven't had this one re-reviewed to
Yep.
get adequacies from the county.
right. So I,
Currently pending.
with Carroll County, to be clear, we are looking for an adequacy from Carroll County moving forward.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Well, it's ultimately got to come from the chief, but what I hear
Let's call the chief and find out.
is, it's like, the county is the entity that determines whether under these 4 criteria adequacy exists, such that the chief then, or his designee, which I guess could be the county,
Correct.
can certify, but we do not have that certification as we sit here today.
Right.
We don't have a proper certification.
And so we can't move forward with, I guess, a concept plan approval, or it can't be a condition of approval.
The code says that you can't approve without APFO certification.
APFO certification.
We can't,
Now-
we're kind of stuck.
Again, municipality has the wherewithal to choose not to enforce aspects of its own codes. The classic example is the police officer who.
I'm not
stops
sure
me
I
for
wanna be the
speeding,
guy
but doesn't
that-
give me a ticket. Okay? You have the authority to do that, what you're talking about.
Like make it a condition of the final plan to
Okay,
allow them to
in light
move forward.
of The fact that the certification delay has not been occasioned by the applicant, but it's up to you all. I'm just going to tell you what the code says. The code
Right.
says, shall.
Right.
You want to follow the code, you can't.
It's a quandary because what I'm hearing is that we really don't have a bona fide fire EMS assessment. We don't. We had one, but upon analysis, it wasn't done properly.
It wasn't adequate.
It wasn't adequate. So I think right now, what do we got in our hands? We've got an outstanding assessment of that APFO area.
Right.
And it's in motion, but we don't have it right now. And if we don't have it right now, I don't believe we can entertain a motion with regard to a concept plan.
Do you have any idea when it would be received back from Carroll County? Or are we sort of, I mean, this is limbo, I feel.
You would hope it would be in a couple of weeks, but it's been a few weeks already that I sent it up to them. So I have to put more pressure onto them ultimately, and
And Mr. Chair, so if we do this, then we're setting a precedence that we have to do it for everybody. And I would think that we should not, and err on the side of caution,
Do this as in move forward?
as move
Yes.
forward.
Oh,
We
oh.
should not move forward.
Yeah.
Because if we do it for one, then that's setting a precedence that we've got to do it for everybody.
Right.
And
Yeah,
I
totally.
will not.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that, and I'm trying to sit here and think of a way that both things can be in motion at the same time, and I'm not coming up with that, Brian.
Chairman, what if we vote on this next month, we get the approval in time, Mr. King comes and actually visits with us and describes the process that he goes through for recycling the rubber turf stuff, and then we approve it then,
The concept plan.
the concept plan.
We have it back.
So.
We'll have it back because John's going to make sure we get it.
yeah.
And then we're going to have everything done, and then on the October meeting, we can push right on through. How's that feel for you, Mr. Thompson?
Well, I won't be here, but that's up to the Kings.
Okay.
I'm not going to drive 1,000
I-
miles again.
Yeah, so
That's the best way to.
So I believe I believe what we're reaching consensus on is we're not going to vote on this concept plan. And so, Tom, turning back to you, would it need a motion to disapprove the current concept plan based upon the lack of a full APO?
Move to postpone it.
Or just,
If everybody's agreeable to what
Okay.
Beta said.
okay, then, given that discussion, do I hear a motion for postponement of the decision, I'm not saying approval or disapproval, but a postponement of the decision regarding the concept plan for Lot 15C?
I will make that motion to postpone the decision for Lot 15C until we receive the information from the Kings and the APFO
Gotcha.
approval.
And Commissioner Butts seconds that. So again, the motion, if I can paraphrase, is to postpone the decision with regard to the concept plan for Lot 15C pending Mr. King's description of the turf recycling process and the full APFO adequacy certification. And it has been seconded, so all those in favor of that motion, please say by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, it's unanimous for the motion. And John, we'll just look for this. We'll just look for this in October.
I'll put pressure on Brian Van Fossen.
Great.
I just got a couple comments on the King Sports, but not related to anything that you just did. Just suggestions of what could be presented at the next meeting to help everyone understand.
Other than a detailed process of the turf recycling process?
No, I was just gonna say, maybe they should include video or something of that nature instead of just a written.
Oh,
Inquiring that Mr. King come and visit with us
yeah.
and then tell us and describe the process.
Well, that's what I mean, describe video instead of just physically describing the post. Yeah, just, I would like to see a video because I was going to suggest a site visit by people too, because a picture's worth 1,000 words.
Well, I've
And,
gone to the site, and the only video I could find was that one on YouTube.
oh, for him, okay, I thought you were,
Does your
yeah.
client have anything like a website that
You can
explains?
go on the website, you can see them
Like,
tearing up a turf field.
Just the process that's
doesn't
there.
have his.
And also for the APFO, just the code, as Tom said, the chief or their designee, just make sure that maybe the chief has said the Carroll County can be their designee for the for the APFO, just to make sure that the county has the legal authority to do that.
Yeah. And just a quick comment. I know I admire your input, Carl. I'm the kind of guy, I'm the kind of guy that kind of gives mission-oriented things. In other words, I'm going to tell you what this commission needs.
Yeah.
And how you suck that egg is up to you.
Oh, that's,
But if, I'm sorry.
that's fine.
How, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you what I need. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna tell you how to do it.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't know how to do it, if you don't know how to deliver the goal that we've discussed here, then you're gonna come up short.
Okay.
So if you wanna do a video, if you wanna have 3 clowns out here dancing with slideshow, that's great. But it's what we need, and I'm not gonna tell you how to get it to us. And I'll check myself for saying,
Sorry, I'm not laughing like everybody else. I'm trying not to crack up here laughing. Sorry, Mr. Chair,
thanks so
but
much.
thank you.
yeah.
I might
So
actually already have it on the list.
it's what we need and not how to do it, and I hope you do it right. So I don't know if we can edit the live stream, but, okay, so if I can, I'm going to close this item. We're going to now move to the last item, which is the resolution to now declare that the draft master plan is appropriate to put into the hands of the council for their deliberation and final adoption. And the town staff has provided us that resolution, if everybody has it. And as you notice, the resolution quotes several entries from the land use code as to the requirements for us to reach this stage in deciding it's good enough to give to the town council. And I won't go over those items. They're in front of you. And so really our job is rather straightforward. You all were provided a red binder with the draft master plan. And It is that plan with some edits that have already been prepared in anticipation of passing the draft to the council. And what I'm alluding to there, they're not substantive in content. They're really more, I would say, window dressing. It has a proper cover, a proper table of contents, a blank area for the executive summary that is typical in front of any kind of any plan. An executive summary that would have the clear fingerprints of the council members' consensus in it, not so much our drafted words. But those kind of elements that are not seen in your current red binder, but will be as we deliver it on to the council. I do stress that we're going to continue the refinement of the draft plan as it is in your red binder. And I say that in all honesty, and I would hope you also understand that the document is still very dynamic because we still have 5 council members and the mayor and perhaps other members of the town staff that may want to, throw in their ideas now that we are going to join in with the council deliberation on this. So I guess kind of just to be short about it is we've been working on this for 14 months. We've had workshops. We've had planning commission meeting agenda time. We've had a few Zooms. We've had the required public hearing. I think it's, and I'll use the term good enough again, I think it's good enough that it's ready for us to engage the good ideas from the council so that they feel comfortable with it. And again, any thoughts that you still harbor with regard to making it better, edits, in other words, or amendments, whether it's annexations, rezoning, redevelopment, Chapter 4, land use, Chapter 5, municipal growth, Chapter 6, transportation, the pedestrian tunnel under the 27 as a specific item, so on and so forth. You all are very familiar with this. I'm sure you wake up at 3 a.m. and start citing paragraph and verse. I know Commissioner Beta does. And so, and I would be the last person to say it's done. It's not done. But I think it's a good time now that we get new eyes on it from the council and we get their thoughts, and how the council directs that engagement is up to them. But that's essentially what this resolution is trying to steer toward. Is it ready? Does it have our consensus, or does it have the possibility at this point of going on over to the council? And then I would say, John, they would probably introduce it on October 7th meeting, which is their next meeting.
That's correct.
And that introduction then would lead them to have a discussion, I would imagine. I'm not speaking for the council, but I would imagine then they would put forth their guidance with now how to go and refine it further with us. Our role in that part, my 2 cents, would be we would be there in that, whatever we would call it, possible workshop environment with the council to clarify the ideas that are currently in it, to kind of talk about why did we do this, why did we say that, who did we talk with, what commission did we interact with, to kind of, underpin those words, and that would be our role. But we would also have the role for them to say, what do you think about fill in the blank? What do you think about changing the annexations? What would you think about those annexations, but changing the zoning districts being proposed for them? Those are just examples, okay? But that would be where we would have kind of that good, solid, mix with them on ideas. Ultimately, as you all know well, they have to adopt it, they have to approve it, and they have to, put it into motion after that. So with all that, basically we're here to discuss, do you want to make any further changes? Do you want to just go ahead and just let's get this into the hands in the wider group and let's make it better with them? If we don't give it to them in tonight, then of course we're a month later down the road, and I would need to understand from anyone saying it's not ready, what would be the actions and where would be the focus in the current draft that still needs something better that holds us from giving it into the council's hands. So with that little speech, I'm open to any discussion from a commissioner.
So, go ahead, Bill.
Commissioner Butts?
I think everyone will agree with me when I say that we have been very resolute in the efforts that we have put into trying to develop this and to reach out and work with representation of all the commissions, and to some extent to also involve the town council in this development process, okay? I think it's time, and you can only do so much. You can only anticipate so much, but I think it's been a rigorous process. I think the important phase now is to go ahead and move on and ask for it to be adopted, and then work together in the implementation of it and holding ourselves responsible to follow through. It's one thing to write the plan. It's much more important for the benefit of your community to modify it, to see what tweaks it needs, and to move it forward. And we got a taste of that with the 2013 plan implementation. That's what's before us now. And I think we have been thorough enough that with good conscience, we can say to the town council, we have done the homework. We're ready to hand it off to you.
Commissioner Bynum, I think you had a comment?
I think the only thing that I really have concern about is Harris LaShire and the mixed use, and I think I've already shared my sentiments about the mixed use. I think it should be more low-density residential housing versus a mixed-use annexation, if it ever does come to fruition.
Gotcha. So for the public, Harrison LaShire is on the Chapter 5 annexation section, and Harrison LaShire is a specific parcel that we're advocating for annexation. And within that annexation proposal, we're also proposing that we subdivide the zoning district within that parcel to have a conservation piece that's located primarily on the current wetlands, which makes sense. Another section which is going to be low density, actually two sections, if I'm correct, two sections that are going to be low density residential. And then the middle portion of it, and I know I'm kind of waving my hand here, I apologize, but then the last section would be proposed as MXD. And so, Commissioner Bynum, I totally understand, and I understand your argument on that also. Would that be a topic that you would want to see revised in what we give, or would that be appropriate for discussions when we engage the council?
I think it would be appropriate with engagement with the council is fine.
Okay.
I don't think it's necessarily us have to make that change in here.
Gotcha.
But we can move forward with the preemptive that we want to discuss this.
Absolutely. Yeah, and again, I stress, I would hope everything's on the table from cover to back. I mean, it should be,
Yeah.
as we all put another wire brush to it, so.
I just think that mixed use at this point
Right.
is just something that we have concerns about.
Understood. Any other commissioner comment on where we are with this plan?
Well, for a little bit of reference for everyone, I have, what I think John can confirm, I have meeting notes from like May of 2022 for the Planning Commission agenda. So if that helps with the concept of how long we have been working on this, I think we've scrubbed it and scrubbed it and scrubbed it. And I'm looking forward to working with the town council because I know a lot of them have been sitting in these monthly meetings, besides Jason. And I know that they have been with us throughout this whole process, and I know that they have a lot to say too.
Any other comments? I'm sorry, Commissioner Wallace?
I just wanted to, I agree that there's been a lot, and we've gone over this quite a bit, right? We spent a lot of time on it. However, we just talked about Harrison LaShire in detail on the division of zoning on that property in our last workshop. So I think that there's a lot more discussion warranted there. And I know that we all talked about it, but once I left that meeting, I was like, I think we were trying to compromise, and I don't necessarily think that that's the right thing to do for the town. Compromising, especially when one commissioner who's in this area didn't sign the letter that came in requesting this. Right, so I just think that it warrants further conversation, and also what you said about the conservation being in the wetlands area, I don't really think that that helps the town when it comes to fields and such, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But again, I don't think you're proposing that we stop and do edits at this point.
I am not proposing that you stop and do edits, but I am also hesitant to send it forward with it written as is, because it's saying that the Planning Commission agrees with what's in here right now.
Okay.
So I personally think that it should be revised, but I don't think that the commission has had enough time to give it, like, have a thorough conversation about it. I don't think tonight's the night to do that. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend holding up giving it to the council, but I think we should be very clear that this is not 100%, we are not in 100% agreement on what's detailed in that paragraph.
Yeah, and so I think it's, you bring up a good point, and that is this is introduced, perhaps something that's worth telling the council is that what you have before you is not a 7-member lock-in consensus, that a lot of the areas here need to be debated further with each of their input in whatever setting they want to, prescribe, a workshop or whatever. And I understand the tension with regard to the county commissioners, but District 4 didn't adhere to that for residential component. We're talking about Harrison Lashir, and I understand that. And so you've got all these kind of tensions, you know what I'm saying? A mixed view of it from across the commissioners, a mixed view of it from the county standpoint. And I guess maybe I end that by saying, even more so now, we need to get the council involved.
Yeah.
To kind of, distill all those differing views out until what they have comfort in adopting.
Right. What I guess there have been situations in the past where it's been said, oh, well, the planning commission, unanimously agreed to that whatever topic, right? And I just want to make sure that people don't think that we unanimously agreed that that should be that Harrison Lashir should have mixed use, that's all.
Gotcha.
And this is still up for editing. So, and that's another reason why I want to get it to town council, because I really want their input. First of all, do we have a firm confirmation that Harrison Lashir is still on the table? Because I know that it's been sort of back and forth. I'd like to get the mayor's input on that too.
I don't know. Honestly,
Yeah.
I don't know if that should influence what we decide to put here, because
No, I'm
it
not
could
saying
change
it
at any
should.
time.
I just need more input from people who would probably know better, and get their opinions on what we can do, what our options would be.
I don't even think they know.
Oh, okay, yeah. Jason?
Yeah.
He's been raising his hand.
Steve?
Yeah, so I think what I am hearing is that, we all still harbor our own ideas as to how it should change. But perhaps airing those out in presence of the council for them to kind of listen and understand, your argument for that edit or 2 or 3, and then let them, kind of gauge it and, kind of let them prosecute these ideas until what they're comfortable with. And so what I can do is if we pass this resolution and therefore pass a final draft to the council, John, I'd be willing to write a brief letter of introduction that covers the points that were made by Commissioner Wallace, that it represents, kind of words like, it represents our best effort to reach a start point for the council engagement on what the town's goals, vision, and activities should be for the next 10 years, and just kind of leave it at that. And I see a hand up from one of the council members, so.
Opportunity for public comment?
Sure.
Is this the appropriate time?
Sure, yep, please. We're on the cusp of either hanging on to this or sending it on.
Okay, so Steve Demoter, again, town resident, also town council member. I'm right there with Commissioner Wallace, and those are the questions I was going to ask, and says, here's what I would ask. You've prepared this very formalized resolution from the Planning Commission that you intend to sign, adopt, vote on tonight. And the wording of this, based on the conversation I had, does not match the resolution. So my point is, if you intend on wanting to send a written resolution to transmit the document to the council, you're going to need to change the wording in this resolution, because you say things like, therefore be it resolved, this is a true copy of the plan recommended by the Planning Commission and further recommends its adoption by the Mount Airy Town Council. Now, if you wanted to change wording in here that says something like, the plan being provided by the Planning Commission for consideration by the Town Council, and put that kind of wording in here, then maybe you can do that. But if you're intending on having signatures with the town attorney and such, I would suggest you not do this, and can you just put something, it sounded like this is where you were going, just put something in that says you're taking a verbal vote to transmit this for town council consideration, something like that.
Right,
So you
so-
see my point, and that's my comment.
Yeah,
Tom has a point.
Yeah, the language comes from the state code. It mandates that the planning commission recommend a plan and certify it as a true copy. The latter part triggering a 90-day period of time within which the town council must take it up and, approve, modify, whatever it's going to do. Or if 90 days passes, it's deemed approved by the council. So all of that language comes from the land use article.
And we do say in here proposed, and then draft, comments on the draft plan, draft. It does not say, does it say final in here anywhere?
I don't see it. It doesn't.
What? I mean, no, I'm just.
Final
just
at
in
all. It
case
says
my
the
eyeballs
recommendation.
missed it. I just
We're
want to.
recommending you take a look at it, and then we have a talk.
It says proposed draft master. I just want to make sure that we don't get stuck. And if it is a requirement from the state, we're having issues with that. I mean, we can't very well argue with that language, but, as Tom was saying, it's directly from the state. But, I just, like with the words draft and proposed, attached proposed town of Mount Airy master plan, is that enough of a, cover us?
Yeah,
Enough of a language to cover us?
So before the town council, first of all, may approve it with modifications, the town council must have a public hearing first and
Right.
foremost.
Right.
So it's not infrequent that members of the planning commission will speak at that and, give their own opinions about aspects of it and in terms of what the town council should do.
Right.
The power, what the town council has the power to do, it can either approve it outright, modify it, can also remand it. So if there are aspects that the town council wants the planning commission to take another look at, or maybe even with recommendation that, the town council is not in favor of this, but they would consider that.
Right.
So it could well be that this comes back to the planning commission. Again, it's up to the town council, but it can remand this plan or aspects of the plan for further input or recommendation by the planning commission. And then, of course, the town council can also just outright disapprove a plan, which puts the ball back here as well. So just to keep those things in mind.
And Tom, for clarification, if they disapproved, is there a time limit on us to revamp or address any concerns? No? Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
So if they disapprove it, is there feedback that we're going to receive from them into what we're going to need to change in it? Is that correct?
One would hope.
Yeah.
In theory.
No, it's no good. No, it's no good.
so we'd be in the dark otherwise.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
I'm just making sure it's clarified.
Yeah, but
Understood.
we don't have any pressure of a time
Half of them
limit.
are here.
Okay.
yeah, so thank you, but with that explanation from the town attorney and the land use, I think the resolution as written is proper.
Yeah, it's what the state code is.
It's what the state code is. Okay, and then we will we will have a motion and we will vote on this resolution. And so for those folks who don't agree with the plan going forward would, of course, oppose that motion, okay? And that record of voting would then be also passed to the council. Let's say we have a majority yay, then any nay presence, of course, I would think that the council would be highlighted on that and ask for explanation. What was your point of view that this wasn't ready for us to get into? So we've got a lot of question marks as to the process. I think it's important that we kind of together work with the council on what those next steps are. Exactly. But we all harbor kind of like, I think this is going to make it better from my point of view. That's all totally legitimate and actually encouraged. Yeah. And so, the point is you gotta first have that engagement. You gotta get the other side of the table here and begin that. So, that's kind of where I am, and that's where we are with the resolution, and we're doing this in accordance with the land use article. We've had a good discussion, so I think at this point, what we need now is a motion with regard to Resolution 2024-5. I'll pause one more time. If the resolution is approved, then what will happen is that refined draft that I mentioned, with the table of contents and all that, will then find its way into a new binder with copies sufficient for not only the council and the commissioners, but any other staff and/or mayor that John, feels should, of course, get a copy. And that's why I made mention that, it would be advisable to you to turn this in so you don't have the wrong version in front of you. So we all on the same sheet of music as we now go into the next step. So I just wanted to also throw that out as a reminder. And I think John, again, assuming the resolution goes, John would say, just leave this at your desk.
Correct.
And John will collect them, and then you will be getting a whole new binder with the same version going forward. So with all that, Resolution 2024-5, is there a motion on that resolution for us to vote on?
I'll make a motion for the Planning Commission to approve Resolution number 2024-5.
The motion is to approve the resolution. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner O'Malley is the second on the resolution. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion to approve resolution number 2024-5 signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
One nay. Commissioner Beineck. And the motion passes. And I believe we move now into reports. John?
Yeah, so my agenda is?
Yep. And council liaison report from Jason.
So my zoning administrator report is in your packet. If you have any questions, I can answer those. I defer to Jason.
So for the September 9th Town Council meeting, it was a pretty light meeting. Council Secretary was, Galletti was running the show since Council President Washball was on vacation. There were no public hearings prior to the meeting. New business, we had road closure for trunk or treat on October 22nd from 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Unanimously approved. We revised PWAs for Lot 7A and 18A in the Twin Ridge Professional Park were unanimously approved. For reappointments, Sean Kelly was appointed voted member of the Board of Appeals, and Amy Witter was approved as an alternate to the Board of Appeals. For ordinances, Annexation Resolution 2024-46 was scheduled for public hearing on October 7th at 7:15. Ordinance 2024-21, budget amendment to add $104,900 for Rails to Trails West was unanimously approved. Our next council meeting will be October 7th at 7:30 right here in Town Hall. And this Saturday, October 5th, is Mount Airy Oktoberfest. So everybody come down and enjoy Main Street. The weather, it's not supposed to rain, so for once.
For once. Thank you so much. Our next Planning Commission meeting date for the month of October is October 28, again at 7:30 here in Town Hall. I'll poll the commissioners for any alibis coming down the line, both sides. This meeting is adjourned. The time is 10 p.m. And again, leave your